So guys, the Championship returned this weekend and it did not disappoint. Loads to go over, let's jump into it. Guys, welcome back to another video on the channel and to another episode of the Championship Roundup. Now this video is going to be split into two parts. The first half of the video, we're going to be going over and analysing all of this weekend's action, and in the second half of the video, we're going to be giving you guys my Championship score predictions for the midweek fixtures. So make sure to go ahead and get your score predictions in the comments down below for the midweek fixtures that we've got going on. And before we jump into anything, let's take a look at the updated standings of the Prediction League after all this weekend's action. It's still Hugo Farmer who is leading the way in the main Prediction League with 63 points, but Kyle Barrett had quite the week, picking up 11 points and draws level with him at the top with 63 points. I'm still doing fairly well. I'm just below J-Matt at the moment with 62 points. We're both on 62. Also got Liam Kay in there who's over on the Patreon. He's on 62 as well, so very tight in and around the top at the moment. For the League 1 Prediction League, it's Fletcher Graham who's currently leading the way with 52 points, along with Ant Chipman and Jaden FC. Both of them were up there last season for last year's Prediction League, if I remember correctly as well. And then for League 2, it's currently Alfie Rycroft with a few others on 49 points leading the way and almost getting themselves into League 1. So as always, make sure to leave your score predictions down below and get entered onto the Prediction League. But without any further ado, guys, let's jump into this one. So we'll start out with Friday night's kickoff at St Andrews, where we had Birmingham beating Derby by 2-0, and this really goes to solidify what has been a really excellent start for Birmingham this season in the Championship. 6 games played, 6 goals up on goal difference, and 11 points already on the board, 2 points off the top of the table. Now, Derby had their moments in this one, but ultimately were sort of undone by the mistakes they were making at the back. It's a difficult situation to weigh in on, because I respect Rooney for what he's trying to do with this side at the moment. You know, you can sort of see the philosophy which he's trying to build up, and at times it has worked for them. But playing out from the back with the personnel that they've had there has cost them a couple times, and particularly for the first goal in this one, it was a bit of a miscommunication between Buchanan and Davis, wasn't it? Djukovic gets in, and then Scott Hogan scores on the rebound. Second Birmingham goal was just a great example of counter-attacking play. Jeremy Bella finished that one off, who I thought looked quite lively throughout the afternoon, really. But like I said, Derby had their moments in this one, but without that sort of focal point of Colin Kazim-Richards, who I do feel like is quite the absence from this side at the moment, it just didn't quite happen for them. And yeah, I'd be interested to hear from some Derby fans on what you make of sort of the philosophy at the moment, and whether you think this is going to be feasible to do over a full season, or do you think you need to be a little bit more adaptable in that sense. But another win for Birmingham in this one. We also got to see the Troy Deeney debut. Things looking up for them at the moment. Next then to Ewood Park, we had Blackburn drawing 2-2 with Luton. Now, Blackburn have had a couple matches so far this season when they've maybe got a bit of an undeserving point after not playing all too well. I sort of felt like this was the opposite of that, really, because they played really well for spells in this one, but ultimately didn't walk away with all 3 points. First 45 minutes especially, Blackburn were the team on top. Tyree Stolen with the opener, great goal, lifts it into the roof of the net. The second one scored by Pickering, which is assisted by Ben Brereton, who we didn't even think would be available for this match. He probably had the best chance to go on and seal this one for Blackburn though at 2-0. He hit the post. He had another one when they were 2-1 up as well, but as soon as Luton got that bit of an inkling of getting back into this one, you can maybe sense something happening. It was a similar occurrence in the West Brom game that they had. That game sort of got away from them in the first half. I know that they lost that one 3-2 in the end, but they really gave it a push towards the end. That's what they did in this one, and then in the 98th minute, Berry comes up with his second goal of the game to give them a point, which is pretty devastating for Blackburn considering the quality chances that they did create throughout the afternoon in this one. Next up then, we have Blackpool claiming their first win of the season as they saw off Fulham by 1-0, and this is just typical of the Championship, really, isn't it? You know, Fulham were looking almost untouchable in their start to the season. They were blowing teams away, scoring goals for fun, and Blackpool were yet to get off the mark with a win for the season. So of course Blackpool will go on to win this one by 1-0. Now you can see the stats to the side of me that, you know, you may think this game was like completely skewed in Fulham's favour and stuff like that, and although they did have a lot of the ball and shots on goal and stuff like that, Blackpool seems to do fairly well to limit Fulham to a lot of sort of like half chances in this one. Like the chances that Fulham were creating weren't as if they were all like clear-cut chances in and around the box that they should have been scoring. You know, there were quite a few sort of speculative efforts which were in there and stuff like that, and Blackpool did well to sort of hold out for as long as they did, and when they got that goal, they obviously had something to hang on to then. But real bit of quality about the goal, to be fair, from Josh Bowler. He's now completed 20 successful dribbles so far this season, which is more than any other player in the whole of the EFL, which I thought was quite the interesting stat. But now he does well to squeeze his way through a couple Fulham defenders and then gets that goal to put Blackpool 1-0 in front, and a massive win there, because like we sort of mentioned before, the longer that had gone on for, them sort of not getting off the mark with that first win, it just sort of plays on your mentality and it gets tougher to sort of come back from there. So massive result for Blackpool there. Fulham just weren't quite at it in this one, although they did have some players missing. So then we had Bournemouth beating Barnsley by 3-0, and in the end the home side had this one fairly comfortable. Disappointed with Barnsley and the sort of lack of fight that they put up for this one, particularly going forward. They didn't have a shot on target in this one, which was quite disappointing. But Bournemouth really looked quite convincing for this one, particularly down that left-hand side. Really interesting to see a partnership between Zamora and Anthony and sort of how that's going to develop as the season goes on. Two youngsters there who absolutely ran the show in this one, particularly Zamora, who scored 2 goals. His second goal especially was particularly impressive, and it was obviously Solanke with the other goal of the afternoon. But yeah, good stuff here from Bournemouth, because I think although they had started the season well going into that international break, there were still a few questions about them. But this result really solidifies their place in the top 6 for the time being. 6 games played, 12 points on the board. They look pretty good in this one. Next up then we head to Ashton Gate, where we had Bristol City drawing 0-0 with Preston North End. Now if you've not seen the matchday vlog that I did for this game, make sure to go ahead and check that out on the channel. But you know what, as 0-0s go, this actually wasn't all too bad of a football match. Sometimes you get goalless draws where literally nothing happens, but there were a few talking points to pick out from this one. I thought that Bristol City looked alright to sort of begin with, but as that first half went on, Preston definitely grew into it and probably ended up having the better chances of that half. Shudder Maguire went quite close as he hit the crossbar, and we had a couple of others which just went wide and things like that. But Bristol City, their real standout performer from this game, I thought was Hanno Masengo. I thought he looked quite good actually. Atkinson at the back I also thought had a decent game, bringing the ball into midfield. Bristol City's best chances probably came from a few of the sort of speculative efforts that they had from outside the box. Hanno Masengo, if his shot particularly had gone in, that would have been an absolute worldie. But towards the end, both teams had chances to go on and win this one. Bristol City had a free kick which was saved by Iverson, and Emil Rees had a couple of chances for Preston, as well as Andrew Hughes with a header. But like I said in yesterday's video, it's just had that feeling of if either team steps it up by sort of 5-10%, then that breakthrough could have been made. But all in all, in the end, I thought that a point was probably the fair result in this one. Next up then we head to Coventry, and another home win for them as they saw off Middlesbrough by 2-0. What a start to the season this is now turning out to be. From Middlesbrough's perspective, quite a few of their players just seem to be a little bit off the pace in this one. One player who did catch my eye a little bit was Onel Hernandez, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of him as the season goes on for Borough. But yeah, Coventry did quite well in this one. Victor Gyökeres scored the opener in the 71st minute. Nice goal scored on the counter-attack this one, and he then went on to set up the second goal for Martin Waghorn. From Coventry's perspective, there's quite a few players, to be honest, who we could pick out as a potential man of the match player. You know, Gyökeres was great, Dabo was brilliant, McFadzean at the back as well. But one player who I particularly wanted to highlight was Simon Moore, who's been so solid for them in between the sticks so far this season, and he made one particular triple save with I think the game at 0-0, which was absolutely outrageous. If you've not gone ahead and seen that, make sure to go ahead and search it up on Twitter, because he does absolutely brilliantly to keep this one at 0-0, and then Coventry go on to win it from there. But yeah, from Coventry's perspective, things are looking up at the moment. Great start to the season, and with Middlesbrough, the balance isn't just quite there at the moment. It's been a bit of a frustrating one. 6 games played, 6 points for them. Next up then, we had an absolutely bonkers game as Reading drew 3-3 with QPR. If you're at this game, let me know about it in the comments down below. From Reading's perspective, I mean, the worry at the moment is the amount of goals they're conceding. They've now conceded 16 goals in the Championship, which is by far and away the most in the league so far this season. And it doesn't look like there's going to be any sort of respite on that, as their goalkeeper, Raphael, has now picked up an injury, and reportedly they're looking to bring in an emergency loan goalkeeper. I know that Raphael himself probably hasn't had his best season so far, but the amount of times he's been exposed by his defence probably hasn't helped out. The positive angle to look at this is John Swift, really, because he has been probably one of the best players in the Championship so far this season. He scored a hat-trick in this game, and he's sort of taken that pressure on his shoulders of sort of easing that goal scorer worry that they were having, you know, with missing the likes of Lucas João and Yaku Mete. That's a lot of goals which is missing from their side at the moment. So Swift has taken that pressure in his stride, but to be scoring 3 goals and to be 3-1 up with sort of 10 minutes to go and still not be coming out with 3 points is a bit of a worry here. QPR, once they got that goal back from Andre Gray, you could maybe sense something was happening, and then Stefan Johansson, who had a good game in this one, made it 3-3 in the 91st minute. So from QPR's perspective, great to get back into this. From Reading, there's a few worrying signs at the moment. They're currently sat in the bottom 3. Next up then we had Sheffield United 6, Peterborough 2. Have Sheffield United finally got going for the season? I mean, it's typical that Preston have to play Sheffield United next, with them being as emphatic as they were in this one, but a lot of plaudits has to be given for them for this performance, because at 1-1, you know, the Sheffield United of maybe before the international break probably goes on to throw this game away, but they were absolutely ruthless in the second half. I thought that they struck the balance perfectly in this game. You know, they weren't trying to sort of shoehorn in 3 or 4 strikers into this team. They put Billy Sharp up front, and then the 3 that played off him were absolutely brilliant in this one. Morgan Gibbs-White, with the goal he scored, the one he set up, was absolutely brilliant, and Dye was absolutely superb in that number 10 role, and Osborne as well, who also got a couple of goals. Fleck was brilliant in midfield, and Sharp as well, who also got 3 assists, by the way. From Peterborough's perspective, I mean, this game really got away from them in the second half. One of the few positives maybe is Clark Harris getting off the mark for the season with that penalty, but there's still a few worrying signs for Peterborough, because this hasn't been the first time this season that they've looked like shipping quite a few goals. As well as that, going forward, Peterborough are also averaging the fewest amounts of shots of any championship side at the moment, which is something else that needs to be addressed. But yeah, Sheffield United more than deserving of the 3 points in this one. Finally, their fans have got something to be happy about. And next up then we had Stoke beating Huddersfield by 2-1. I think I managed to correctly predict this one. Now, the two sides went in at half time at 0-0. Huddersfield take the lead just into that second half. Harry Toffolo with the goal, but Stoke quickly managed to bounce back just 3 minutes later, and it's Mario Varancic with the ball in, and Brom manages to head home. Now, Stoke didn't have all too much attacking threat about them in this game, but most of the things that they were doing going forward were sort of coming through Varancic, who looked quite classy in the midfield in this one. Eventually, Stoke do take the lead, and I mean, Huddersfield get a little bit unlucky with this one, to be fair. I think that on another day they probably get a point from this game. It's Pearson in the end who turns the ball into the back of his own net. Not sure how much he knows about it in the end. It's a little bit clumsy perhaps, but those things happen, don't they? Like I say, on another day Huddersfield probably end up getting a point from this one, but a good win there for Stoke against a side who were obviously coming into this game on quite a good run of form. After that we had Swansea against Hull playing at a goalless draw. Now, to be fair to Swansea, a few of the criticisms that we've had of them so far this season is the fact that they hold on for the ball so much, but that doesn't lead to all too much in the final third. For this game though, I thought they were looking pretty good. They were looking more purposeful with the possession they had on the ball defensively. They looked pretty assured. You know, Hull didn't really get much of a sniff in the final third throughout the whole afternoon, and they did create several chances in this one, albeit probably the majority of them did come from sort of efforts outside the box and things like that, but they did look significantly more threatening than they have in some of their other matches so far this season. Matt Grimes had a particular chance from a free kick which was tipped onto the post by Ingram. They had a couple of penalty appeals as well which were waved away, which on another day probably get given as well. From Hull's perspective, it's another clean sheet, which is a good thing. The worry though is it's another game without scoring. They put 4 past Preston on the opening day, and then since then haven't scored, which is a little bit concerning to say the least, but a good point from Hull on the road there. Swansea probably a little bit frustrated they've not ended up with all 3 points. Next up then to the Hawthorns, we had West Brom drawing 1-1 with Millwall. Gary Rowett just loves a 1-1 draw, doesn't he? But in all seriousness, good point there for Millwall on the road. West Brom would have been a little bit frustrated, particularly with how that first half went after that penalty miss from Carlin Grant towards the end of that half. Great save though by Bartosz Białkowski. West Brom came out with a little bit more intent. They took the lead through Kyle Bartley. Great ball whipped in from Connor Townsend, and then that looping header which finds its way past the big Millwall goalkeeper. But Millwall get back into the game with a looping header of their own. Daniel Ballard with his first goal for the club, assisted by Jed Wallace. And from that point onwards, West Brom tried to give it a bit more of a go with sort of Robinson coming on and things like that, but Millwall more than held their own in the second half of this one, and even had a chance to go on and win it after there was a bit of a miscommunication between, I think, Semi Ajayi and Sam Johnson at the back, but Johnson dug him out on that occasion, and in the end Millwall did well here to walk away with a point. And then there's our last match to talk over in today's video. We had Nottingham Forest 1, Cardiff 2. Really damning stuff here for Nottingham Forest, who are now rooted to the bottom of the table, the only Championship club yet to pick up a win this season, as we are now 6 games into this season. And things started off fairly well for them. It was a decent goal they scored, you know, low on the overlap, gets that ball into Graben, who slots home to make it 1. But there was always the feeling that Cardiff were going to have to improve going into the second half, because they hadn't really got out the blocks in the first 45 minutes. Fair play to Mick McCarthy with the changes that he made, because they clearly changed things in this one with Kiefer Moore and Colwill coming on. Colwill especially, you know, in the end bagging the brace, which was enough to win this one for Cardiff. But serious problems at the moment here for Forest. I think that Sky put up a graphic at the end of this game showing their recent run of results in their last sort of like 12 Championship matches, so stretching back into last season, and it seriously makes for grim reading at the moment. I think they've lost 5 of their last 7 Championship matches by 2 goals to 1. And you look at their next few fixtures and you think to yourself that something massive is going to have to change now. In midweek they've got Middlesbrough, after that they've got Huddersfield, Millwall, Barnsley and Birmingham. You really struggle to find the answers with Forest at the moment, don't you? But good win there for Cardiff. Guys, there we have it. Those are the Championship matches which took place this weekend. As always, I want to get your guys' thoughts on all of the action, so if you were at a game this weekend, let me know down below what you made of it all. In terms of my results of the weekend, a few I could choose from here, but I'm probably going to go for Blackpool, because literally no one saw that coming. 1-0 against Fulham. It is a top result, to be fair. And then for my goal of the weekend, few I could choose from here. I quite like Morgan Gibbs-White's goal, you know. I know that maybe Peterborough's keeper helped it into the top corner in the end, but it was a good strike nonetheless, and there were quite a few from that game which could have won this award. But there's everything to do with this weekend. Now let's head into my midweek score prediction. So make sure to get your guys in the comments down below. Let's jump into them all. So heading into the midweek fixtures, first up we got Blackburn going up against Hull. I thought that Blackburn probably got a little bit unlucky not to win at the weekend with the amount of chances they created against Luton, and with Hull's lack of goals in that squad at the moment, I'm probably going to edge Blackburn in this one for a 2-0 home victory. Blackpool up against Huddersfield is quite an interesting one. Huddersfield obviously won 3 of their last 4 but did lose last time out, and Blackpool won their first match of the season quite impressively against Fulham. I'm going to go for a draw in this one, I think. I don't think there'll be all too much between these two sides. Wouldn't surprise me if that one went either way. I'm going to go for a 1-1 in that game. Bournemouth up against QPR should be an absolutely fascinating one. I'm going to go for an entertaining 2-2 draw in that one. I always like back at QPR, I think, for a good 2-2 draw. They're always quite good value for it. Sheffield United up against Preston. I mean, it's a tough one to call, because Sheffield United really looked like they clicked last time out. They put 6 goals past Peterborough. I think that Preston will prove to be a much sterner opposition, because we have looked better recently. You know, we're unbeaten in our last 3 matches now, but I have a bit of a bad feeling about this one, that Sheffield United seem to have that formula for their season now. So reluctantly, I'm going to say 2-1 Sheffield United and hope that Preston prove me wrong. Reading up against Peterborough seems like an absolutely massive game in both sides' seasons. Neither of them are doing particularly well at the moment, but I think I'm just going to edge towards maybe Reading with that home advantage. I'm going to go 2-1 there, but once again, either way wouldn't surprise me in that game. There's our last game on Tuesday. We've got West Brom going up against Derby. I'm probably going to go 2-0 West Brom in that game, I think, although it wasn't their best performance of the season last time around. I think that this fixture gives them a decent sort of opportunity to go ahead and bounce back. We've got Birmingham going up against Fulham. Do you know what? I'm going to back Birmingham to get a point from that one. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Fulham didn't quite look as sharp as they did previously at the weekend against Blackpool, and Birmingham has obviously been a tough place to go so far this season. Bristol City up against Luton. I also think I'm fancying a draw for this one. Bristol City looked solid against Preston last time out, but as we all know, they don't really win all too many matches at home, so I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw in that game. Coventry up against Cardiff, could definitely see this one going either way, but with how impressive Coventry have been so far, particularly in their home matches, I'm going to back them for this one, I think. 2-1 just to edge out Cardiff, but obviously you can never rule them out. Forest up against Middlesbrough seems like an absolutely massive game here. Forest aren't exactly on the easiest run at the moment, you know. They had Mick McCarthy at the weekend. They're now coming up against Neil Warnock in this one. Both of them obviously have a bit of championship know-how about them. Middlesbrough themselves haven't been sparkling lately, but we've definitely seen more about them than we have Forest so far. So for that reason, I think we're going to go 1-0 Middlesbrough in that game, and the pressure to really mount even further on Sheff Utd. Stoke up against Barnsley, I'm going to go 2-1 to the home side unless we see a bit of a reaction from Barnsley from last time. I do see Stoke getting through that one. And then last up we got Swansea going up against Millwall, which I think I'll go with a 1-1 draw for. Swansea looked better last time out against Hull, albeit they've still not got the most in the final third, and Millwall, I mean, they always love a 1-1 draw, don't they? So I'll go 1-1 in that game. As you can see to the side of me though, those are my championship score predictions for the midweek action that we've got coming up. So to get yourself involved in the prediction league, all you need to do is leave your score predictions down below. But apart from that, guys, that will now wrap it up for today's video. So if you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and do stick around and subscribe for some regular championship content. Apart from that, thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.